This is an extract from the Leader podcast by the Evening Standard. The whole thing is available on all major podcast providers.
I am truly sorry for all the pain and grief that has been caused. I will act.
Labour leader Sir Keir Starmer vows to rid the party of anti-Semitism. Later, its previous leader, Jeremy Corbyn, is suspended from the party. A report by the Equalities and Human Rights Commission concluded there were unlawful acts of discrimination and harassment that Mr Corbyn's Labour Party was responsible for. It found 3 breaches of the Equality Act 2010 and serious failings in the Labour Party leadership. The party has been served with an unlawful act notice requiring it to tackle the issue. Our editorial column says it is to Labour's shame that it's become only the second party ever investigated for racism by the Commission.
Keir Starmer has said Labour is under new leadership and has vowed to tear out the poison of anti-Semitism. The EHRC report is an opportunity to do that. We hope it will further empower Starmer to eradicate anti-Jewish racism from the party and implement proper processes to ensure future allegations are fully investigated. Yet the report must serve as something more than a mere basis for bureaucratic reform. It has to be a moment of reflection, a chance to ponder why so many anti-Semites considered Labour under Corbyn to be their natural home. Not until this question is grappled with can Labour truly say it has learned the lessons of this appalling episode.
Our political editor, Joe Murphy, joins me. Joe, Jeremy Corbyn has been suspended from the Labour Party this afternoon. What happened?
Jeremy Corbyn has now been suspended by the Labour Party. This is not something Keir Starmer announced in his press conference. It seems instead he went off and looked at Jeremy Corbyn's own words responding to the Commission's report, where Mr Corbyn said that some of the allegations had been exaggerated by enemies of the Labour Party and the media. This is a huge moment for Keir Starmer. It could be a defining moment where he puts his leadership imprint on the party, perhaps a sort of clause 4 moment, if you like. But let's make no mistake, it's going to be hugely controversial. A lot of Labour Party members hold Jeremy Corbyn in affection, and they don't believe he's a racist. And this may well go through the party's new procedures. But win or lose, whatever happens, it'll be a bumpy ride for both of them.
So, just to backtrack a bit then, what were the key findings in the report that came out this morning?
Well, the key point is that Labour acted unlawfully in failing to tackle complaints, and quite extraordinarily, it is blamed for effectively harassing its own Jewish members and people who complained of anti-Semitism. But that's the headline accusation. But of course, the detail of this investigation is where you get the more extraordinary things. So the Commission found at least 23 times when there was what it calls inappropriate involvement by the leader of the opposition's office in cases. So that included staff who worked for Jeremy Corbyn influencing decisions on complaints, specifically trying to get people off who were facing suspension. And this is a really serious claim. But there are other details. We find that a complaints inbox was left unattended for years. So people were emailing in complaints about anti-Semitism and other things, and it was being ignored because nobody was looking in there. They found records missing. 62 files out of the 70 reviewed in detail had things missing, or they found that there were lengthy delays or miscommunications. People were poorly served by the party. This is a pretty devastating series of failures by the Labour Party. And I should stress here, a lot of these things were directly to do with Jeremy Corbyn, those interventions, but some of these problems, such as bad record keeping, predated him.
And this morning, after the report came out, how did Jeremy Corbyn respond?
Not surprisingly, it's not a wholehearted acceptance of the findings. He stressed, of course, his opposition to anti-Semitism and his campaigning against racism. But he says that a lot of the cases in here were greatly exaggerated by the party's enemies, politically and in the media. And that's an interesting comment because the mirror image of that comment was made by Keir Starmer. In his response to the report, he said, "Anybody who thinks it's all exaggerated has no place in the Labour Party and should leave." So it did sound as though Keir Starmer had seen what Jeremy Corbyn said and was responding quite bluntly to it.
Labour is only the second party to be investigated by the EHRC. What has Sir Keir Starmer said will be next for them?
Well, Sir Keir's going to take 6 weeks to get in place new structures, working with the Commission to try and make them bulletproof. But after that, there's a much bigger problem, which is that he's got to change the culture so that people, and we're talking principally people on the left of politics, learn to distinguish between legitimate criticism of the Jewish state, for example, and the unacceptable use of language that is offensive to Jewish people.
And how have leaders in the Jewish community responded?
They've responded by saying this has been a great day of shame and that they hope it's an end of a terrible chapter.